This meeting is recorded.
Okay. All right, let's do this. Okay, good morning. I think to most of you, good evening to some, and welcome to the webinar co-hosted by LegalEase Solutions and Felix. The topic today is predicting outcomes in litigation using data analytics and artificial intelligence. And thank you everybody for your time. And we're really excited about the topics we're going to cover. I think it's going to be, pretty exciting to explore what's happening in the legal industry, how artificial intelligence is really starting to make a definitive presence in the legal space, and really, start to look at, what's happening currently and what the future trends indicate will happen with the use of artificial intelligence in the way we actually manage litigation today. So I have with me, I'm going to do a quick round of introductions. I have with me my the other speakers today. I'm really not going to be, speaking, but really facilitating. This is more a conversational, a fireside chat that we're going to be having with Shiva, primarily from Felix, but then we do have the other participants as well. So the conversation, really, the presentation is not really going to be slide by slide, but more a conversation between us, and hopefully we can gather some insights. Please feel free to put in your questions along the way. We do have Nasiha, who's going to be helping us, shepherd this this webinar forward. So when you have questions, please, as the conversation progresses, drop them in, and if it's contextual to what we're talking about, if it would make sense for us to address that and really enhance the quality of the conversation, we definitely will. And we're also going to have a Q&A session at the end of this session, where we will address the parking lot questions, some of the questions that might come along the way. Great. So without further ado, I'm going to kick this off. The final thing is, as we start to do this, we're going to try and finish this webinar in 45 minutes. I know that we've allocated an hour, but we're looking to, make it concise and hopefully comprehensive enough in the next 45 minutes. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to start introducing. I'll start with myself. I'm Tariq Akbar. I'm the CEO for LegalEase Solutions. LegalEase, for those of whom, LegalEase, who aren't familiar with LegalEase, LegalEase is a legal solutions provider. We work with technology companies globally in the United States, Europe, Asia. We work with attorneys across 3 continents as well, providing bespoke legal solutions. Today, we've seen the advent of technology hard and fast, and where we've really understood is the biggest hurdle to adoption is really contextualizing legal tech to different use cases that happen within the legal industry. And really, LegalEase has built a reputation and a brand around that. So I'm the CEO for LegalEase. I do have with me Shiva from Felix. I'm going to have him give a quick introduction, maybe in a couple of lines about himself.
Sure. Thanks, Tariq. Very excited to be in this call. I'm Shiva, the founder of Felix AI. It's a data science at scale platform solutions company, 20 plus years in technology, the last 10 of which has been in building data science solutions at scale. Very happy to be in this call. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shiva. Chris, you want to give us a quick background?
Sure. I'm an attorney with LegalEase, and I work with some of our corporate clients and helping them manage their litigation and across many states. And we're working alongside with Felix to bring some of these tools online as well. So it's a very exciting place to be.
Thanks, Chris. Lana?
Hi, I'm Lana Johnson. I'm also excited to be exploring the application of AI within the legal industry. I think that technology-enabled businesses have a lot of competitive advantage and performance advantage just from a background perspective, I've spent about 30 years enabling businesses through technology, primarily in financial services and fintech.
Thanks, Lana. We also have Patrice with us.
Thanks, Tariq. I'm the Director of Legal Services at LegalEase Solutions, and I am an attorney, Michigan lawyer. In that capacity, I support corporate legal departments and law firms with a virtual team consisting of the best of breed technology partners, such as Felix, and custom hybrid solutions. Part of my responsibility is customer service, and another part is delivery. So I'm involved at all aspects of the client experience. Fantastic.
Thank you, Patrice. And I think just to lay context to the audience, if you see the speakers really are in three buckets. We have the solution innovators, we've got the technologists who understand the technology and implement the technology at a ground level. And then we've got the client service and the delivery folks who actually understand how the technology works real time in a client scenario. So we're trying to, broaden the perspective so that this becomes a real conversation, not just, fairly nebulous and abstract one in terms of how technology can actually potentially change the legal landscape, but how it's currently doing so. All right, so I'm going to start with Shiva. I think one of the things that we really want to try and focus on and kind of lay the ground for the audience is to at a basic level, Shiva, what is the difference between when we hear the word analytics thrown around a lot, big data, analytics, machine learning, so on and so forth. And here specifically, I think, and AI, of course, right? Artificial intelligence is in the news quite a bit. But what is the difference between data analytics and predictive analytics? And even if you could maybe throw a little light on, difference between, let's say, words like ML and AI, and really focus on what is contextual to our conversation today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, TA. So actually, predictive analytics is really a subset of data analytics. So data analytics, broadly speaking, it's the use of data to glean insights. So for instance, if you're looking at hospital information, and you may get the insight that there is an increase in ER visits, and this happens during holidays, and that's an insight, that's data analytics. Predictive analytics, however, is looking at patterns in the past and making predictions based on likely outcomes. So if I use the same example, the same motif, a predictive analytics solution would analyze historical patient data and would identify a patient at risk for an unplanned admission because of an exacerbation of the diabetic condition. So the key difference here is that it's looking at historical data and then trying to glean something that may happen in the future. Mm-hmm. So to do that, it mines patterns of data, makes predictions, and this is where it uses techniques like artificial neural networks, convolutional neural networks, etc. And when people use the word machine learning, it's really, again, a broad term, loosely defined, and this includes things like expert systems, which in other words are known as rules engines, and also AI systems, which essentially are looking at historical patterns and trying to make predictions using neural networks. Now, neural networks could be convolutional neural networks, in which case, they are called it's called deep learning. And then the older form, which is AI, which is artificial neural networks, which was the predecessor. So that's broadly, see, a lot of these terms are used loose and fast. So
is there an overlap between these terms as well, Shiva?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there an overlap?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So these terms are not very rigidly defined in a scientific manner. So there's a lot of overlap. So people use ML and AI interchangeably. Though, technically speaking, AI really is the use of neural networks, and machine learning is a broader term and would also include rules engines.
And just to kind of hone in on one specific point, what would be, let's say, just for purpose of our conversation, be the difference between, let's say, predictive analytics and AI? And I'm just going to preface that, is predictive analytics a function of AI, using AI in order to get predictive analytics?
Yeah, you could say that. So AI is really the use of neural networks to look at historical data and then making and making predictions. So yeah, you could say that in a way, yeah, the use of AI is for predictive analytics. Yes, you could.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to move over to Patrice. Patrice, would love to hear your thoughts around why is it important? I mean, we speak about data a lot, right? And can you give us your insights based on your experience? How important is data to make smarter litigation decisions?
Sure. So yeah, there's been a boom in analytics in the last several years, and today there are tools available from a variety of vendors. You can access judge analytics, opposing party. You can get analytics around damages and trends. This is all good and useful information, but the data that you already have can help you make sense of the vast volume of information in your company. And that will then provide incredible decision-making insights. Well, how can you do this? Well, by analyzing your data, you will then be able to identify patterns or anomalies in your own practice or your own company that translates into better intelligence. The end result there is time savings, money savings, and greater accuracy. If you're making better decisions, you're doing it quicker, and you're not wasting money on erroneous decisions. And so the entire outcome is a better running machine for your business.
So really what you're talking about is, if I understand you right, is data-driven decisions where instincts do play a part, and human, obviously, decision-making is really based on the data that is actually available so as to make smarter decisions.
Yeah, that's a great point. So lawyers make decisions based on their experience and the experiences of their colleagues, and sometimes even their gut. I can remember the days when I was a practicing lawyer and an email went around asking about any insights about a particular judge, if you had an upcoming motion. Well, today you can get those analytics at your fingertips. There's plenty of tools out there. So that's great. Trusting your gut is a great thing, and your own experience is a great thing, but having a layer of data that has been analyzed objectively adds an entire new level of precision to make a more informed decision.
That's a great point. Thank you, Patrice. Moving on to this question is for Lana. How much data do we need? I mean, we're talking about data. So what's this quantum of data that we actually need for it to start making sense? I mean, is it possible for us to start this with smaller amounts of data, or do we need a critical mass before this starts to make any sense?
So when we think about data and how much data is necessary to really be able to effectively leverage an AI technology or an AI model, I kind of think about it in three categories. And companies usually fit into one of these three categories or somewhere in between. So of course, ideally is that you have a proprietary database of rich structured data, right? Years of experience, lots of structured data in fields that are easily readable, easily translatable. But a lot of times we don't see that, right? That's kind of the holy grail and what you're shooting for. On the other extreme, there are some places that might not have any data. And so we leverage kind of some of the tools and data sources that Patrice mentioned. Do you go to LexisNexis to get data? Do you use publicly available data so that you can build a generic data set within your industry to start to leverage an AR model? But mostly what we see is in this third category, where there's a little bit of structured data, but a lot of the really rich data is either in notes, right, where people have typed notes into a system, or they're in documents where people have typed up documents and then those images are available within your system. And luckily, artificial intelligence has a solution for those scenarios as well. So, when we first started thinking about document recognition, it was optical character recognition. And, that technology is becoming more obsolete because we have natural language processing now, we have computer vision now, which can actually take those notes and understand them contextually within a language and turn those notes into structured data that then an AI model can use to make decisions. And the same with documents. So looking at those documents, understanding them contextually within your industry, and then turning that into structured data, which can be leveraged for a model. So, you know, those are kind of the three categories of data that we see today. And finally, even if you start with a small, sparse data set, if you add to that data set over time, then as Shiva mentioned, the machine learning can kick in. It can gain wisdom as your data grows, and it can adjust and provide additional insights and additional learnings as your data insights and the learnings within the database grow as well. So those are kind of what I see out there today as far as data goes. And you know, you can have success with sparse data sets as well as rich data sets and somewhere in between.
Thanks for that, Lana. Lana obviously comes from very rich experience. She's been with Citigroup and a lot of fintech startups, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of data in your time. Now, I think the big takeaway I see is that we have structured data in the form of databases or systems like case management systems, so on and so forth. You also have unstructured data, like almost like handwritten notes where people are jotting down stuff, or notes on systems, but we're able to make sense of both. So we're able to take unstructured data and actually structure it. I think I got that. And the second thing and I think what I'm getting is that this is a process, right? So there's no, at the end of the day, just like everything else in life, you've got to start the process and kind of keep at it, because you will get better and those outcomes will start to get better, but you've got to start somewhere. There's no point in time that you say, hey, I'm going to start when I'm big enough. But I think it's actually, in some senses, a little more manageable when you start small and then start to curate that data and structure and understand your data a lot better to create those solutions over a period of time as well. So I think that's my takeaway from your answer. Is that about right?
I agree with that completely. I think the sooner you get started, no matter your starting point, the faster you're going to get to a better outcome. And so absolutely, starting with where you are, building over time, enhancing those things over time are all going to give you a great way to be able to leverage AI as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Lana. Now, I'm going to move to Chris. Chris, we know that you're currently working with a large automobile OEM, a Fortune 500 company, and they've got, obviously, just like any large organization, enterprise, they've got a variety of different issues that at any given point in time they're trying to solve, and everything's got to be, faster, better, quicker, and obviously, they need to save money at all times. I mean, cost is always an issue. But have you used data to predict litigation case outcomes, and how have you been able to implement that data in a way that is meaningful, to your client?
Yeah, thanks, TA. We are currently in the process of bringing this live. So we have used the data within an expansive testing set, going back into the historical data and up through very current times, working on bringing that live. The client historically has used data analytics, as Shiva and Lana have mentioned, to sort of pull from their various databases. Some of them are fairly dated, legacy systems. There's a fair amount of structured data, but there's also a fair amount of unstructured data. And manually, they're pulling together reports, and as Patrice mentioned too, relying on a lot of gut instincts for both their local councils in the various states, as well as general counsel within the entity itself. What we're doing is leveraging that AI and their current data analytics, pulling everything into the system and getting a predictive output that we're training the AI tool to think like an attorney and produce predictive results that match real life expectations. the work that an attorney would do, say, over 8, 10, 12 hours, maybe over a couple of weeks, pulling together initial reports and analysis, we're able to put that in the machine, spit it out in a matter of seconds, whether or not a vehicle should be bought back, whether or not we should be paying certain damages. So it's a very, very exciting place to be, and we're looking forward to bringing that fully online for the client. But yes, we have had very good success with predicted outcomes.
Mm-hmm. And what are the insights that you've picked up? I mean, in your day-to-day, right? In terms of using this, I mean, have you been able to kind of see the fact that you can make quicker decisions? Have you seen a transitive impact, in your current day job?
Sure. I mean, for one, it saves the client money on their defense spend just on their local counsel, rather than having this, law firm or attorney work however many hours or however many days on producing a predictive result. That's sort of an initial step. Number two, I think it brings a lot of certainty to myself, sort of managing these attorneys in the various states, as to what that predictive number is. Obviously, local counsel has a lot of experience, and that's something I highly respect, but everybody has biases, everybody has opinions. Sometimes people have bad days. And sometimes you just have a tough case where you could go either way. And the outcome difference could be tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. So having that predicted outcome from the tool, relying both on the historical data and the predictive forward-looking analysis, is really helpful in certainty moving forward as well. And then I think as a final insight, sort of understanding how a good, reliable number could help drive earlier settlements. Overall, we're anticipating bringing down the overall spend on the plaintiff side as well.
I can totally imagine the predictability it would actually lend to the finance department, for one, if they had actual budget to actually look at. I mean, that's great. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to move back to Shiva. Shiva, I know we all think today AI is the best thing since sliced bread. Obviously, we all do. I'm not, but I want you to focus a little bit on the challenges. What can be the challenges today, and realistically, in terms of both implementing AI and using AI? What do we need to watch?
Yep, TA, I think getting access to quality data by far is the biggest challenge when you're implementing a predictive analytics solution using AI. So taking the example that Chris was talking about, this Fortune 500 company, we need access to dealer systems which have information about repairs and customer communication. And then we also needed access to legal systems. The problem is neither the internal legal systems were complete and accurate, because it's just boring for people to fill in information after the fact. And also dealer systems didn't have accurate and rich data. And this is just an example. This is a Fortune 500 company. Imagine how it will be in other companies. So getting access to rich quality data is to my mind, the number one challenge. But having said that, the answer is similar to what Chris and Lena alluded to. There is a lot of information in unstructured text. In fact, one would argue there is a lot of actionable intelligence. So what we did in this particular case is we went ahead and looked at correspondence between the customer and the dealers and between law firms. And then we used NLP and very focused domain-specific NLP to then glean out all these other facts which did not exist in the legal systems or in the prepared data. So that is probably a way to mitigate. You use unstructured data analysis using NLP, get the relevant data out, and then use historical data to make predictions. And we use an approach which is called supervised learning. So the engine is looking at historical results, making predictions, and it's being trained. It's a very smart kid, but it's still a kid. So it needs to be trained by subject matter experts. And then it gets better and better over time. And this process is called closed feedback loop. So now what happens is the engine has now become really smart, is able to look at patterns, having actually created part of the rich data set itself. So when you get new data, in this particular case, a customer calls and says, "Hey, I have a problem with my car." Even though the data is sparse, the engine is really good at identifying patterns with historical settlements and says, okay, this looks like that other case and similar cases. And it's able to make reasonably accurate predictions within seconds, like Chris mentioned. So in summary, really access to data is a problem. However, good design of AI systems can actually help mitigate this data problem and make the predictions better first time around itself.
And is it possible for us to, since data can be such a challenge, right?
Yeah.
What can we do? I mean, can we cleanse that data? Can we
Yes.
work to a point to get it to to make it a little more meaningful?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is where, again, AI and NLP can help a lot. So, you may not have rich data in your structured data, but you will have a lot of rich data in unstructured form, email communication, documents, etc., which you could mine, like Lana mentioned, using computer vision NLP, and then use that to cleanse and run data integrity on the structured information, and hence make the data better. So it's a self-learning, it's a virtuous cycle. And if you can get that, then the system becomes very, very powerful really soon.
Great. And I think I'm going to pick on a couple of things that you also mentioned. The one thing is it's a child. So a child can make some mistakes, right? Every once in a while, right? Just like, as we
it's a very, very intelligent child. Yes.
And as we start to train that child, to become like this highly performing, efficient, competent, adult or robot in our case, I think, we'll start to, get bigger, better, faster. But ultimately, I think what I'm hearing also is the human element really never goes away, right? Regardless of, and AI is really augments the human decision-making capability so that humans ultimately can make better decisions using AI, right?
Absolutely.
So it's really,
absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Shiva. I'm going to loop back to Patrice. So Patrice, I'm a general counsel, right? So I know we touched on this a little earlier. But what do I do? Where do I start? I like all this talk about AI. I want my legal department to, get on track. I want to start understanding how can I start to leverage AI within my legal department, or my law firm, right? So where do I start? You're on mute.
Sorry, thank you for that. Sure, Tia, it doesn't have to be a daunting process at all. In fact, it can be pretty exciting. First, determine your objective. As Chris mentioned earlier, the OEM with whom he's working could use this tool to predict buyback possibilities, damage estimates, to drive earlier settlements. So it's important in the outset to determine what you want from it. Next, you need to identify your data. That means getting a really good understanding of your internal systems that house this data. So, for example, are you using an internal management system, an internal case management system? Speak to your team, find out where you're capturing this info, where most of it is housed. Once you identify the sources, then you need to identify whether the data is structured or unstructured. And as Shiva mentioned earlier, there may be a cleansing process. You might need to identify user errors in the input process. And then once you have all of your data identified, then you need to find the right partner, both on the AI side and also a partner who can understand your problems and objectives from a legal perspective. So you want to look for someone with experience to help you think through what challenges you might face and to keep your original objectives in mind. So, it can take some time. And there's a commitment, but it doesn't have to be a daunting process as long as you you have the right people who have your back.
Got it. So really, I mean, all this starts with trying to understand what are the problems you're trying to solve, right? And I think the one thing that I, possibly could, I'm going to push you on is you never know what today's solutions can solve for you. So we really don't need to look at AI solutions that are currently solving problems, but really, what are my problems and can AI be designed to solve it, right? So you're really coming from saying, I can go greenfield on this, saying that, I have these 5 things or these 10 things or these 50 or 100 things, right? That really I'm trying to solve, within my legal department, my law firm, and then try and see if AI can potentially solve any or, most of them in some way or form, as opposed to trying to look at anything off the shelf, right?
Right. That's actually, you mentioned earlier, bespoke solutions. And that is the beauty of it. We're not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You need to determine what's right for your company, and then the solution will be built.
Got it.
It's not so much pulling something off the shelf. I mean, maybe someday in the future, there will be off the shelf solutions like this, but today it's going to take a team. It's worthwhile, but.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Patrice. I'm going to move over to Lana. Lana, we've spoken a bunch about, formulating settlement strategies, right? I want to focus a little bit just on accuracy. What does accuracy mean in terms of AI solutions, and how predictable is accuracy?
Sure. So accuracy, can somewhat be of a judgment call. So I think we talked a little bit earlier that, a lot of times when you give a case or a scenario to multiple people, you'll get multiple answers. And when I think about AI is just another answer within that opinion set. What's good about the AI answer is it's going to be calculated consistently on a full set of complete data and information every single time. So you're going to get a very consistent answer that's well thought through and will not be subject to bias or error. The calculations within that decision or that recommendation will also be highly accurate. Your AI technology will not make, misinformation. It won't make calculation errors, and it will deliver a consistent answer every time. Now, what I think is kind of interesting from an accuracy perspective is, again, what we will all think of that decision. Some people may agree with it. Some people say, well, I think it's close. And some people may disagree completely, because we all have our experience and our judgment to lay over what the system recommends. So, what I think is important is to understand what it is and understand what it's not. It's not a human decision. It's a decision that is going to be made consistently based on predictive elements. But it will absolutely be calculated consistently and accurately from its historical information each and every time.
Great, thank you. So really, again, what I'm hearing is trust this, but trust this with your eyes wide open.
Absolutely. I think that, as we talked about, sometimes the data is available, sometimes it's not available. There are experiences and information that's available to our human staff that the tool doesn't have access to. And so it's always important to, make sure that we're looking at that, we're understanding what it is, what it isn't, and then making the best decision for the firm or the business. Great,
thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense. Patrice, back to you. Is there anything in the legal industry that's AI based that we might have heard of, or it's kind of been in the news that's actively solving problems today?
Oh yes. So the legal research tools that we all know and love, they are using NLP based AI tools today to read opinions. These tools have a more sophisticated understanding of the whole, as opposed to the old days. I mean, when I came up in the 80s and 90s, it was just about keywords. That's all you could do is search keywords. But now these tools will have a very sophisticated understanding of the whole. There are case and matter management tools that will produce fairly robust reporting that can give legal departments key insights into legal ops, such as spend. And then I think everyone's familiar with e-discovery tools like Relativity, that when used with an experienced team of lawyers are able to extract and analyze data while identifying patterns and trends that can really expedite your litigation workflow.
And I'm just going to ask Lana. Lana, I know that Felix designs custom solutions for healthcare now with legal, and you guys are going across industries as we speak. Is AI, or can AI be off the shelf?
Sure. So I think what you'll see is all the large technology providers, whether it be Google or Microsoft, they're offering AI type solutions that people can download and use, right off the shelf. And then, I think that there are other providers in the industry who are building, ground up, fully custom solutions. And then, I think there's something in the middle that is kind of a base engine that leverages and ensembles a lot of different AI technologies to give you the best outcomes. And then it's slightly customized for the industry specific use case. And so it's kind of a middle ground. It's not an off the shelf generic solution. It's not a complex ground up build that sometimes can be expensive and take a long time, but it's a middle ground that combines the two with a strong base set of optimized artificial intelligence technologies that then is trained and customized toward an industry or a specific problem that can give you really good outcomes.
Great. So then I'm just going to push you a little bit on that. How do you make that decision? I mean, do I pick something that Microsoft Azure or AWS has built out and just say, hey, they've already built this, so I'm going to use this, or I'm going to go with an AI provider like, I don't know, Felix, right? That's the plug, and as much as I'm going to make. But how do you make that difference?
Well, the answer is you always use Felix. No, I think it depends on your situation. I think all of those different solutions can work for different types of businesses, for different types of problems. I think when we do research around the off-the-shelf solutions, those work really well for companies who have AI expertise and really understand how to implement those technologies. So you really need a strong technical expertise. The ground up solutions are really for super, super complex business problems or businesses that have, quite a large budget and can go to market in a longer period of time. And then kind of the solution in the middle that combines the two is really just that. If you don't have a lot of technical expertise, but yet you want to implement some AI in a shorter period of time, then that makes sense for your business.
Fantastic. And I'm going to put this as my insight, and what I've found in my limited experience is technical expertise is one area, but I think you've got to combine it with the relevant domain expertise, whether it's financial, whether it's insurance, whether it is healthcare or legal for this matter, that allows for that AI to work in context, right? I think that's really a huge nuance that I think we really can't afford to overlook. So I'm going to, Chris, I'm going to ask you a percentage question. What percentage of time gains or time efficiencies do you think that today, currently, and I know you're working with a tool that is going to be, hopefully hugely impactful to what you do, but if once this tool kind of gets into production, which is going to predict settlement outcomes for you, what percentage of time do you think that's going to shave off for you?
Well, I guess let me answer that in two ways. I think as we roll this tool forward and we're sort of mid-stride in bringing it online, we're going to see perhaps a 50% increase in the efficiency and 50% less time spent in the early phases of a case, putting together our initial analysis and sort of setting the guidelines, the goalposts, and the end goals for that piece of litigation overall. And then I think if you look over the life of the case, once you've utilized the tool to sort of predict where you think this case will go, you'll probably see an overall savings of about 30% time, I think, which is a pretty substantial savings.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks, Chris. I mean, that is obviously, hugely impactful. I know we're running against the clock, so I just have a couple more questions, and we're gonna, try wrap this up and then open this up for a few questions from the audience. Lana, I'd like you to take this one. Within, we hear again these terms being thrown out. One thing is analytics, and we've spoken about this earlier. We say, hey, analytics this and analytics that, and then you hear words like business intelligence, right? And I'd like to know, in your perspective, the difference between just say analytics. A report is analytics, right? Just you crunch some numbers, you put it on a report. That could be analytics, right? And then you've got business intelligence, and in our case, what we're talking about for the legal industry is what I'd like to term legal intelligence. It's just not business, but also legal intelligence. What's the difference between these two?
Sure. So just as you said, when you think about just basic analytics, it is the presentation of data for a user to read and interpret and then take actions and insights from, right, themselves. So, data being presented, maybe some calculations, some key metrics being presented to a business user or a legal user. When I think about intelligence, it takes that information that's presented and it actually makes kind of like I'll use the word intelligence again. It makes an intelligent recommendation based on the data that's presented. So it's not just data, but it's actionable insights and recommendations that a user can then review themselves and say, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of people become concerned with using AI because they think it's a black box. And what AI solutions can do is they can provide transparency into those actionable insights and those recommendations to help the user really understand why. So you kind of think about transition from analytics all the way to transparent, actionable insights. You get metrics, the AI technology then based on historical information and predictive capabilities, it tells you, I think you should settle this case for this amount. And these are the reasons why. This is the first reason, the second reason, the third reason why the engine made those recommendations. And then the person can use that information in their own judgment process, to kind of, bring it all together. So, I think the transparency can absolutely be there. I think some really good solid recommendations can be there, and it really provides a good overall solution for the businesses or the firms to take forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lana. I think the word we're seeing actionable so many times on this slide, and I think that really sums it up, right? Today, I think we live in a world where we're truly inundated with numbers, with information, and sometimes it's almost debilitating. The last thing you need is more information put at your desk. So while everything is being reported, everything's being captured, everything's being presented in some way or form, what do you do with this much data? It almost, it's debilitating in many circumstances, not really knowing, okay, I've got, and this happens to me, all the time. I've got like 17 reports I got to review. To do what, right? That's the main question. You're reviewing these reports, but are they really distilling all of that down to maybe 5 actions you need to take? And those actions ultimately will make, far more powerful. So it really from information, digesting that information, distilling it, and really creating those actionable insights, I think is what you're referring to. And I can totally relate to that, because we live in this time where truly we're overwhelmed by the amount of information that we actually have. So last question to Shiva, and very apt. So Shiva, the future of AI, what are we looking at? Are robots going to take over the planet? I think you got to address that. Get over. Let's deal with that one.
Yeah. Are we looking at Jarvis from Iron Man, or are we looking at Hal from 2001: Space Odyssey? Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think it's a very intriguing question, and many thoughtful people are worried today about an AI system left unchecked. So I'd like to address this in two parts. The first part is the immediate short term, and the other one is the longer term. And short term, like Lena mentioned, I think the focus really has to be on transparency. I think there are two critical issues here. The first one is explainable AI. So it doesn't matter how good the AI system is, it has to make sense to human beings. It has to be explainable. It has to make business sense. And the second thing is the elimination of bias. And this could be bias that's injected into the AI system by the person that's building it, that's training it, or it could be unwitting bias. But at the same time, the inherent problem with this closed feedback loop learning is that biases will be amplified manifold, as the AI keeps reinforcing that bias as it learns. So that's the biggest challenge, is to have transparent systems which are explainable and are bereft of bias. So that's the key challenge, and that's the focus in the near future. A lot of work is already happening there, and that's very critical. But longer term, I think AI is going to be our friend. It's going to be more like Jarvis. Now imagine an employee who never gets tired. That employee is reading reams and reams of contracts, legal documents, is always keeping up to date with all correspondence between counsel and customer repair results in the dealer systems, in the particular case of that Fortune 500 company. And it's making real-time, accurate, ethical judgments about what the settlement should be. It's doing all of that real time. It actually enables first call resolution of issues, at the same time providing absolutely superlative customer experience. In other words, the perfect employee. And that's really the future of AI in litigation. You can have your cake and you can eat it at the same time. And that is where all the AI systems will go. It's going to be inexorable. That's the future. And we can get there not through only general purpose AI, but AI systems which have deep domain training and reinforcement. But that's really where I see AI going.
Fantastic. I mean, sounds terribly exciting. The perfect anything is something that I'll take with a pinch of salt, whether it's the perfect employee or the perfect AI. And I think you've touched on a very, very important piece, is how do you eliminate bias, from AI? So everything is only as good as you train. And if you train something with inherent biases, that training is just going to learn your biases. Just like your earlier analogy was, when you raise a child or you raise a kid, if you raise that kid with biases, then the kid's going to grow up with those biases, right? So and unlearning, we all know, can be daunting. So it's really important for us to really, think about, what those inherent biases are as we design systems as well, and try and see if we can eliminate them from the get-go, right? If we potentially can, and if we can identify that. So thank you, Shiva, for this. I think we wrapped up. I think we've wrapped up, the presenters sections. I'm going to go over to some questions that we started to get from the audience. And I am going to start with the first one. Let me throw this out to maybe Lana. Lana, how do you deal with data privacy? Or maybe Shiva, and please feel free. I mean, the panelists can jump in, and whoever feels most comfortable answering these questions. But data privacy. So we're looking at data. We're looking at AI engines ingesting this data. How do we address issues of data privacy?
Sure. So I'll start, and then Shiva can definitely jump in with more technical expertise. But from a business perspective, the AI technology does not necessarily need private data in order to function, right? It needs trended data. It needs, all of the information from the situation but not necessarily the consumer's private data. So, you can definitely structure your AI tools in order to limit any risk associated with using private data. But, Shiva, I think you'll be able to add a lot of information for this question as well.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lena. Yeah, for a lot of decisions, we don't necessarily need PHI or PII. But again, in many cases, the solution is to de-identify the data and only keep the relevant data structures and data entities which are relevant to the particular problem being addressed. So for example, if I want to know what's the settlement for a customer complaint, I don't need to know the gender or preferences or anything else, the address of the customer. All I need to know are things which are relevant to that particular matter and case. So, so there are techniques which are used de-identifying and in extreme cases anonymizing the data. But privacy is very, very critical, and that is actually a hot button topic right now. So it's very important for us to be ethical users of AI, because again, the more data you have, there is always the more power to corrupt and to build in biases. So techniques used are tools like de-identifying the data, anonymizing the data, and keeping the data only relevant to the key elements which are most critical to the problem being solved.
Great. And I think one thing is you spoke about making the data, anonymizing some of the data as we feed them into AI engines. And the second piece is also, I think today, just like any other solution that firms are looking at, I think data security can be either housed in a client's own server, so there's really limited transfer of data or no transfer of data outside of the servers in itself, and everything works off of the server. So the data really, whatever AI solution you build can actually be inherently on the client's cloud system in itself, and then work off of that too. So that's it becomes its own solution. The next thing is let's talk a little bit about also change management, right? Change management is such a big thing. So the moment we say AI, everybody's eyes glaze over sometimes, and you kind of lose your teams. Like, okay, what are we talking about? What's AI? And I've actually had some visceral reactions from some of our dear clients, like, oh, keep this AI away from me. This is a verbatim quote. But so you get reactions from all over the place. You have some great adopters of new tech and saying, hey, listen, I'm really excited about AI, and I'm assuming that people who are here in the audience are belong to that group. We're like, hey, I'm really interested. What can AI do? And I want to learn more. And then there are people who don't. So there is a wide range, right? And these are people that we have within our team. So so we live in diverse societies, we live in diverse communities, and inherently we live in diverse organizations and diverse departments with different points of view. How do you manage change management? And this is a question I'd love for both Patrice and Lana to kind of chime in and see what does change management take to get a process like this started.
Lana, want me to go?
Yeah,
go for it.
Definitely.
Okay. That is a great question, TA. And there are webinars dedicated solely to that topic and training courses, and there are experts out there. It reminds me of a quote attributed to Henry Ford that goes something like, if I had asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And, the implication there is sometimes, we think we know what our team needs more than they know what they need. But change management starts with understanding and planning for the change. That's just the beginning. Implementation is a whole nother story. We all know, as you said, humans are resistant to change. They get used to their methods. You'll hear over and over again, well, that's the way we do it. Well, that's the way we've always done it. But you need to show your team the benefits and get them to buy in. In other words, create ownership at every level, assign a change agent, somebody who can champion it for you, and make sure that you communicate and train it every step of the way. Make sure everyone is supported. And then once the change is implemented, it's important to phase out the old ways, because if you leave the old ways in place, the holdouts are going to continue to use the old ways. I think the most important thing before I hand it over to Lana is that change does take time, and it really doesn't happen overnight. You need to keep plugging away at it, and even small setbacks or what might seem like an initial failure doesn't mean that you won't achieve the big milestone. But Lana, anything to add?
Sure, just really quickly. So kind of my 3 favorite things to think about when I think about change management and implementing an AI tool. The first is, communication and involvement of your team in the process. Patrice mentioned this. The second is I really like the idea of humanizing the technology. So give your technology a name, it's AI Lana or it's AI Tariq, right? And we're hiring this new person that is automated, right, to help us in our business and help us all, be a little smarter, be a little faster, help us be a little more productive. And the idea that this person that the firm has hired to come and help, I think is really good. Help, not replace. And then the third, I think, is creating success metrics and then showing how the technology is enabling the firm or the business to reach their success metrics and sharing that information over time. Those are 3 things I really like.
Awesome.
I'd just like to chime in really quick, because we're sort of like midstream on this, but getting buy-in, showing the benefit to the end users is hugely beneficial.
Thanks for that, Chris. Absolutely. I know that Chris is in the middle of some mass testing. So I'm going to take one last question, guys. We're on top of the hour. I apologize. We might run a minute over, but we'll just really take this question. Maybe Patrice, you can shed some light over what else in legal? I mean, outside of, one of the questions is, have you seen predictive litigation analytics in other contexts outside of automotive?
Yes, definitely. Analytics is being applied fairly broadly today in litigation, transactional, and legal ops. Just this week, Chris and I worked on behalf of a client using a tool to give us some judge analytics. So you can find out how a judge will rule on a specific motion, what a judge's motion grant rate is a judge more likely to grant a motion in favor of plaintiff or defendant, what law he or she is citing. You can find out attorney track record. There are brief analyzers. You can upload a brief and it'll analyze your brief for you. Law firms can use their prior litigation history, which is something that Chris mentioned with the OEM. They're using a lot of their litigation history to determine probable outcomes in similar cases, when and whether to file a motion or take other procedural steps, probabilities for damage awards, expert witness involvement, the length that it will take to resolve. We're seeing it in transactional. Internally, we've used contract review tools that are incredible. They perform a textual analysis of contract terms, resulting in more efficient review and identification of errors and risks for the user. CLM, contract performance, you have NLP powered AI that will conceptualize key terms. And then in ops, legal spend, a lot of insights you can get into your spend, avoid surprises, budget.
Second part of this question, and we'll end our webinar. Unfortunately, we don't have time for all the questions. Is this only for big enterprise, or can small law firms use these tools as well?
I'd like to take this. Absolutely not. I mean, any company can use AI, and there are quick and dirty solutions that you can build and prove the concept of the AI and then move on. This particular Fortune 500 company that we were talking about, from start to finish, the proof of the concept came in less than 3 weeks. So gone are the days where, just coming up with the strategy is going to take you 6 months, and then the implementation 2 more years, and the business context has changed. So what you should expect and what you should demand from all your partners, and I'm being very forceful about it, is quick results, prove out the concept very quickly, and then in a very cost-effective manner, stage the rollout.
Thank you, Shiva. With that, we'll bring the webinar to an end. I obviously want to thank the panelists, a lot of rich experience, a lot of rich expertise, on the ground knowledge that they've shared, I think, with all of us and the audience. So thank you so much to the panelists. And I want to really thank the audience for taking the time out to learn more. And I think one of the most important things that I'd like to leave all of us with is that with knowledge comes power. For us to continue learning, understanding trends, technologies that are going to transform our lives and the landscapes around us is really key, and to experiment and to partake as part of that change is the only way that change will not be intimidating, and that we're not going to be intimidated, but we're going to accept that and really use that to develop all the exciting things that we actually do and enhance everything around us. So thank you again, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. The recording of this webinar will be available and sent out as well for future viewing. Thanks once again. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.